Today on the DML News podcast, Donald J. Trump is now being called the agent of chaos by Wall Street. So many things going on, including a plummeting of the stock market. We're going to talk about this and so much more, so get ready, because what is it, Denny?
Unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I thank you for joining me on this Monday. Hope everything is going well in your life. Sitting across from me is my son, Dennis, and on the other side, you can't see him, but that's Ryan. He's my other son. I get the pleasure to work with my sons every single day. And what's great is that this show is always inspired by 47 Report. Go to 47report.com. It is the #1 newsletter in the world for all things Trump, all things MAGA, all things for the administration, what they're trying to do to make America great again. It also indicates what it is that the left is trying to do in order to get in front and stop Trump. But the good news is they're always chasing the train. They haven't gotten in front of us yet. But one of the things we are going to talk about is sometimes when you cause your own derailment. We'll get into that in a moment. But if you go to 47report.com and you sign up for the newsletter, here's what happens. Not only is it completely free to do, but tomorrow in the morning before 7 a.m. Eastern, often 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. What time did you have it out today, Dennis?
5 a.m.
5 a.m. 5 a.m., you're going to wake up. You're going to go to the potty. You're going to go downstairs, make yourself a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, do whatever it is. You're going to open up your laptop, your tablet, your phone, whatever, and you're going to be enlightened with the most informative newsletter you have ever put your eyes on. In fact, it's funny. I played golf the other day with a buddy of mine. I haven't seen him in a while, and I haven't seen him since Trump won and took office. And he said, I've been reading your newsletter, and I'm sharing it to family, and I'm sharing it to friends, and they're all coming back and being like, how do these people do this every day? How do they do this? The amount of information in the 47 Report newsletter is astonishing. And they're like, I can't get this anywhere else. Of course you can't, because the rest of the media is just flyover country, not us. We get into the details. We get into the weeds. You would be very happy if you sign up for the 47 Report, 47report.com. Like I said, it's completely free. And then what winds up happening is that in the afternoon by 5 p.m. Eastern, you wind up getting the DML report by default. And that is, I go in there, give you a couple of news items that are happening during the day. And on top of that, I always give you a good little op-ed or a lesson, an essay that's happening about something. Over the weekend, had two of the most popular ones I ever did. How it is that foreign nations are investing, if you want to call it that, I would like say influencing and buying the U.S. media. People were like, I had no idea this was happening. Of course you didn't. And then the next day, I explained how it is that foreign nations are dumping money into our universities and our K through 12s by the billions, influencing our schools. People come back again, why don't I know this? Because nobody else covers it, but I do. Go to 47 Report, that's 47report.com, put your email address in, and you will forever be the smartest person, not in the room, not in the town, not in the state, but in the world. And that's how it works. We're going to start off today. My morning monologue is going to start off a little differently. Instead of hearing from me, you're going to hear from President Donald J. Trump talking about tariffs and the positive impact that it could have on our country, something that I have said countless times before in this show over the last 45, 50 days. And on top of that, I have written about extensively on 47 Report and DML Report. Ryan, let's play that video.
I think the tariffs are going to be the greatest thing we've ever done as a country. It's going to make our country rich again. We have many companies, as you know, auto companies are opening up plants now. We've had 4 or 5 announced already, but many more are coming. And we're basically going to take back the money, a lot of the money that we've given away over many decades. We've lost our jobs. We've lost our factories. We've lost 90,000 factories since the beginning of NAFTA. It's not that long ago. 90,000 factories. Think of that. And we're going to get them back. And they're coming back. And they're coming back in records. Look at what happened with the big chip company, the biggest in the world. By far the most powerful chip company in the world, from Taiwan. And they're going in with $200 billion of money, and they're going to build something that's going to give us 35-40% of the chip market in one company. No, it's going to bring it back, and I think it's going to make us bring us to a level that we've never had before.
I'm going to read you something. This is off the DennisMichaelLynch.com website. This was just posted this morning. I did this article myself. Amidst global market volatility and geopolitical turbulence following President Donald J. Trump's return to the White House, economists are sounding the alarm about the potential economic fallout from his unpredictable policies, though they stop short of predicting an imminent U.S. recession. Trump's inconsistent approach to trade, particularly his fluctuating tariff policies, has earned him the label of agent of chaos and confusion from Holger Sliming. He's the chief economist at Berlin Bank. Schmalag, I can't even say these names, emphasized that while the U.S. economy remains resilient, buoyed by consumer spending, a stable labor market, declining energy prices, and anticipated tax cuts and deregulation, the long-term consequences of Trump's actions could undermine economic stability. He noted that Trump's policies are likely to hurt U.S. trend growth beyond 2026 and drive up consumer prices, reducing the likelihood of Federal Reserve interest rate cuts during Trump's tenure. Business leaders and economists have expressed growing concerns over the inflationary pressures that Trump's tariffs could unleash, with American consumers likely bearing the brunt of higher prices on imported goods. These policies also threaten investment, employment, and economic growth, as consumers may curb spending in response to economic uncertainty, potentially leading to a period of stagflation characterized by high inflation and unemployment. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell has indicated a cautious approach, stating that the central bank will wait to assess the full impact of Trump's aggressive policy moves before adjusting interest rates, which are currently set at the range of 4.25% to 4.5%. Meanwhile, recent economic data showing a dip in consumer confidence in February adds to further complexities that Trump administration is now facing with their economic strategy, raising questions about the sustainability of current growth amidst such policy unpredictability. Let me give you my take on this. I have supported the idea of tariffs since the get-go, and here's why. If I were to get deeper into what it is that Trump tries to explain from time to time about these tariffs, we have a couple of problems here in the United States which are inevitable in terms of our own demise if we do not change them. And I have been spitting this out for years. You can pick up any item in your house, look upside down, and say, made in Taiwan, made in China, made in Mexico. This is an issue. Why does a coffee cup have to be made in China? Why does a light bulb have to be made in India? Why does anything have to be made outside the United States of America? We are the greatest country in the world, bar none. There's not a second close country to us. And yet, for some reason, we have allowed our leadership to enable and empower and encourage companies to outsource everything. I mean, even forget about made in China. How about spoke in India? Think about how many times you get on the phone to call your bank, a company, American Express, whoever the hell it is, and you got some person on the other side saying, hello, how can I help you? I mean, you'd think you're at 7-Eleven ordering a Slurpee. And the first thing they do is they're asking you, what's your social security number? What's your date of birth? Wait a second, dude. You're probably sitting next to, Slumdog Millionaire, and I'm going to give you my information? Are you kidding me? Listen, it's one thing if I'm going to buy a friggin' hot dog from you at 7-Eleven, or I'm even going to get one of those friggin' Slurpees and you haven't cleaned the Slurpee machine in 9 years. God knows the bacteria that's flowing through my body at this point. And then you wonder why you're sitting on the toilet bowl for an hour and a half after you have the Slurpee. But it's another thing if I got to give you all my banking information. It ain't going to happen. And then what you do is you say, can I be connected to somebody in the U.S.? Now, either they connect you to somebody in the U.S. or they say, we don't have anybody available. And I just hang up the phone. And then you get a survey in the email. How was the customer service today? I said, sucked. And I sit there and I look to my wife. I'm like, why in God's name do I have to deal with somebody overseas? Where was it? When is it? Why is it that I can't get an American on the phone? This doesn't make any sense. We've got Americans sleeping in tents on the corner. You're telling me they can't do a freaking easy, tiny, hi, thank you for calling American Express. How can I help you? Yes, your bill is late. You're going to have to pay or else there's an 18% finance charge. We can't get somebody like that? My ass. My ass. Companies have been empowered to go overseas. They've been empowered to do everything that is anti-American. What Trump has been trying to do in making America great again is forcing companies to say, if you're going to operate in India, if you're going to operate in Mexico, if you're going to buy your stuff from China, you are going to pay a dear price. And that's why people like Apple are sitting up and saying, wait a second, maybe we should just really do a manufacturing plant in Texas. That's why you've got other companies saying, you know what, we're going to open up 5 factories here in the United States. So everybody's starting to bring stuff back. That's the idea. It is a fantastic idea because it has a trickle-down effect. It has a ripple effect. And I'll just get into some of that ripple, not all of it, because I'd be here for 9 hours. But think about the towns and cities around you that used to have some level of manufacturing. There was a level of robustness, if that's even a word, that was throughout the town. People had jobs, they had money, they were going out and spending. There was a level of pride and mojo. That's all gone away. Now you got the broken window theory, right? You go and buy and you're like, oh my God, look at that factory, man. That factory used to be beautiful. Do you remember how it was bustling? Now there's weeds growing through the cracks in the cement, and the smashed windows are all over the place, and the brick is getting old, and you just look at it and you're like, what a misery. When are they going to knock that down and build another what? Another condominium complex? Another Section 8 housing? And that's what happens across America. And I can tell you what happened. What happened was that companies were empowered and encouraged no longer to make things here in the United States, to no longer employ people in the United States. They were empowered to outsource or to import. Trump is trying to stop that. Now, I've always compared tariffs to a diet. If you start a diet on January 1, and you expect that by January 10, you are going to be Slim Jimmy, you are as dumb as the guy who serves the Slurpee. It's just not going to happen. You need a lifestyle change. You need to throw out all the garbage and the sugars and everything else that you've been consuming in your body, and then you need to make it so this way you're back to what I call God's food. Now, there's a lot of things, not just losing weight, that is going to impact you. You're going to sleep better. You're going to look better. You're going to maybe cancel out all the factors that could cause you cancer and heart disease. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, but it's going to take some time. And everybody listening to me right now at some point has lost weight, and you know you haven't seen a friend in 6 months, and all of a sudden you see the friend, they're like, oh my God, DML, what have you been doing? You look fantastic. How much weight did you lose? I lost 40 pounds. Oh my God, what did you do? That's tariffs. That is the same thing as tariffs. Because if Trump puts in the tariffs and he keeps those tariffs going, what's going to wind up happening is that those graveyards, we could call them, those industrial graveyards will be revitalized. They'll come back they'll come back. Somebody will go in and be like, what? I could buy that building for $1 million? That thing used to be selling for $50 million. All right, fine. I got it. Here you go. They're going to put millions of dollars into it. Those weeds and the cracks are going to be gone. It's all going to be newly paved. Everything, the new bricks, the new spray paint, everything. And all of a sudden, jobs are going to come back. And slowly but surely, just like a great diet and a lifestyle change, you're going to see America go back to the way it was in the 40s and the 50s when it was actually making things and we have that white picket fence. The days of calling American Express and Visa and MasterCard and whoever else's customer service, you're going to be speaking to somebody who sounds like you. But in order to get there, there has to be a level of consistency. And this is why Trump is being called the agent of chaos. Now, we are almost 50 days into this presidency. And for all those days, I have sat here in front of you and I have never uttered a bad word. I've said, I'm not going to question Trump. No way. I've done that in the past. I'm not going to do this time. I'm going to bend that rule a little bit here. The stock market is down again today significantly, and it keeps on happening that way. And the reason why, in case you don't know, is the stock market is basically measured against futures. It's not today, it's the future. People are betting, investing, whatever word you want to use, calculating on the future. That's why, I'll give you an example. You could have a company that comes out and says, our earnings last quarter were amazing. We beat estimates. We doubled this and we doubled that. And the stock goes down. And you're like, whoa. Wait a second. We did great. Why is the stock going down? The reason being is because the company gave a warning of what's to come. So you're not going to get rewarded for what you did. You're going to get punished for what you see. This is what's happening on Wall Street right now. And Wall Street is usually a great indicator of what is to come. These are very smart people at Wall Street. They're very corrupt, but they're also very smart. And that's why they drive around in bazillion-dollar cars. And they have bazillion-dollar houses. Because they understand the markets and what's going to come ahead. And the predictions are right now that we are in for some choppy waters. Now, why is that? Is it because tariffs are so bad? Well, think about that for a second. Think about what I said and think about what I read to you. If an economist says to you, these tariffs are going to hurt your wallet, okay, what else could it do for me in a positive? They're going to say, well, it's going to hurt you in your wallet because you're going to pay a little bit more for avocado and some of these other different things, the goods and services, maybe some more for your parts for your car. But long term, you will make more money. So, you know what? We're not going to punish these tariffs too badly. We do see we're 6 months, 12 months out. This could be really a good thing. And then what will happen is that even though the tariffs are being implemented, they're going to look past that and they're going to see that there's going to be a flow up. Trump, in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, is making that near impossible. He's making it hard for me to sit on here and tell you about how grandiose this is all going to be. One day we've got the tariffs, then the next day he takes them off. One day we're going to tariff this one, but then the next day he takes it off. The next time he's going to have a tariff for 30 days, but then he only makes it for 10 days. He is changing things so much so and so often that he is creating a level of chaos. And there's a few things that people do not like. And one of them is chaos. Third world is chaotic. We don't want to be third world. People who invest their money do not want chaos. They don't want big highs and big lows. They want steady. I can tell you, as being somebody who's got his retirement, a good portion of my retirement is in the stock market. And I call my guy and I'm like, why am I down so much? And you know what I've been hearing? Trump's a little inconsistent right now. And hopefully he gets consistent. Nobody wants to invest on hope. Hope and change. Remember that? That was Barack Obama. The hope went out of the window and the change was the actual pennies that you had left in your pocket. Nobody wants that. We want stability. And I'm all for a plan. You want to tell me that this is like a diet and I'm going to have some rough nights where I'm going to look at the cupcakes that my friend is having and say, no, I can't have one even though I'd love to have one. I'll do it. I'll do it. But in the same way that a diet is never going to work if you're having 4 cheat days out of the 7 days of the week, if you're like, I'll just have some pizza because this morning I didn't really have a whole lot. If you start justifying bad habits, the diet is never going to work. And therefore, these tariffs, we can't say, we're going to put tariffs on, but we're going to put a 30-day break on it. We can't say, we're going to put tariffs on Mexico, but you know what? We're not going to do it. Let's take another break on it. We can't do that. We have got to stick to plan. There's going to be tariffs. Those tariffs are going to stick for 90 days. And at the end of 90 days, we're going to assess where things are. There's going to be ups and downs in the stock market, but I want to see for 90 days, no fentanyl, no people crossing my border. And when I do that, I'm going to lower the tariffs from 25 to 20. And then after another month, if it's the same thing, I'll go from 20 to 15. Another month, I'll go from 15. I'll even drop it down to 5. And then we could eventually take these things off. Or we're going to keep them on just a little bit because you know what? There's a premium for selling into America. Nobody would have a problem with that long term. Nobody, because it would do exactly what Trump said in his little video clip there. But that's not the play that I see unfolding right now. And that's not the play that other people are doing. We're seeing a script that is inconsistent. Is this a love story or is this a horror movie? What's this script? Because every time I change the page, seems to be like I'm reading a different movie. This has been one of the things that Trump did in the past that was very, very disruptive. And what his greatest supporters would say was he's playing 4D chess. The problem with playing 4D chess with the American people is that you got folks right now who have their retirement funds being ripped down. They're scared. People are seeing uncertainty. Now, where is this going to pay a dear price? The midterms. Nobody wants chaos. You want to cut back on the amount of government that we've got? It's great, but don't cut back too much. I need to be able to go and get my VA services. You want to cut back on sending stuff to U.S. aid and around the world? Okay, I get it. But let's still make sure we're sending a little money over to make sure we have some of our labs over there. So this way we're not allowing some of these crazy third world outbreaks and pandemics to make their way to the U.S. shores. We've got to have a steady hand. You make a plan, you set sail for that plan. You don't interrupt that plan every other day. And that is why you're seeing the sort of erratic up and down right now. So everything trickles down. My sons will tell you, if I'm erratic at home, one day's good at home, one day's bad at home, one day's good at home, one day's bad at home, they don't want to stay at home. They want to get the hell out. But if things are nice and they're consistent at home and we've got rules and we follow by a certain thing, well, then they're going to stick around. And this is one of the reasons why my family is still together today, because we are consistent in our messaging about how we are as a family and what we do and what we don't do. That is success. And therefore, I am urging the President of the United States, your tariffs are what is needed to stop the fentanyl, to stop the flow of illegal immigration, and to stop me having to turn over an item at my house and see that it was made in India, China, Mexico, or some other third world country like Taiwan, Vietnam, whatever you want to call it. There's no reason for that. I'm with you, Mr. President, 100% over. We'll fight it every day. But if you're going to have me and other people fight for the tariffs, you got to stick with them. You got to stick with the diet. The funny thing is, and I'll end on this and then I'll bring in Dennis. If you've ever seen somebody who goes on a crash diet, what winds up happening is not only do they fail, but they wind up being even heavier than they were at the start. I don't want to see our economy get worse than it was with Biden. And in order for businesses in this country to be able to thrive, what they need is those interest rates to go down. Because when interest rates go down, companies invest, they give raises, they could go borrow money, it's robust. That trickles down into the consumer. The consumer now has more money, the consumer spends more money, goes out and buys more goods and services. And that's the hum of the economy. If those interest rates stay high, not only do businesses not be able to do what I just explained, not only will consumers cut back and not spend, but the price of everything winds up going so high, people can't buy it. The interest rate for a mortgage is too high. The interest rate for a car is too high. The interest rate for everything is too high. And therefore, the economy actually stops. It stops spinning. We need to have consistency. And with consistency is prosperity. And with prosperity is make America great again. Anything short of that is a plan to fail. Hope and change was tried once before. We don't need it again. Denny, I know you haven't been around long enough for the ebb and flows of many different economies, but you are reporting on this stuff all the time, every day through the 47 report. And I know that there have been plenty of times when you've been like, in your report, your part of it is Trump's taking off the tariffs, Trump's putting on the tariffs. Trump's taking off the tariffs, Trump's putting on the tariffs. It must be hard sometimes when you're doing the reporting on it to stay like consistent in a message.
I was going to say, I mean, even this morning, I was just checking updates of where certain tariffs were standing. And I may even have it wrong. I think he rescinded it for Mexico, but still has it on Canada. But Mexico's will return on April 2nd. And I think he still has it on China, but it's, you're right. There's an uncertainty. There's a little bit of, and what's very weird is that, and you just said it, everyone has this sense of uncertainty, but we don't have any clips from it. And it's mainly because of, Facebook trying to flag it. But if you read the 47 report, which everyone should read it for today's edition, the main report was about his interview with Maria Bartiromo from Fox News. And she spent her whole interview asking about what's the plan here.
Yeah.
And it seems like Trump is the one who has the certainty while we all have the uncertainty. And there's two responses I'll address with his overall theme. He feels that there's plenty of clarity to it because whether there is a tariff or not, manufacturing should just be coming back to the US regardless. So rather than try to play the guessing game of will there be a tariff or not, just make the plans now to move your manufacturing plant into the US, move your company to where American workers are hired, which is great. But at the same time, how is that going to really have the impact if you're not going to play certainty with the tariffs? So it's very frustrating when you're like, all right, we're going to stick it to Mexico, especially when the aspect of fentanyl trafficking is brought into the whole situation, and then he rescinds it. So the uncertainty for everyone else is there, and yet Trump seems to have that certainty, although he did not give a definitive answer about if we may be heading into a recession this year. Howard Lutnick, on a separate interview, said that that shouldn't be the case. But when there is uncertainty, the percentage kind of goes higher as to the aspect of, oh, could we head into a recession, especially if there isn't a full economic plan here that's going to provide clarity for everyone involved. And then another thing I'll kind of read as almost a direct quote, and I understand where he's coming from, but his whole idea here is that we are in a super significant transitory period or transition period. And one of the quotes he gave Maria last night was, "What I have to do is build a strong country. You can't really watch the stock market. If you look at China, they have a 100-year perspective. We go by quarters, and you can't go by that. You have to do what's right." So I think his overall theme there, and we've talked about it before, I know you've talked about it extensively, China has generational planning. They think about what their grandkids are going to do next, whereas I think a bit of a flaw for America, not so much you and I or even our audience, but I think most people on average are only thinking about the next 4 years until an election, the next 8 years until a sweeping party change. We never really think about the long-term plan. If anything, I only see it from the Democrats when it comes to climate change, and that's kind of the bogusness. So what about what China's doing? I mean, China's got a lot of freaking problems, and they're tied up with a communist mindset. But if you look at their biggest cities, I mean, they shoot for the skies. So I would love it if the U.S. could go back to the manufacturing, as Trump said, where our cities are more vibrant. They're not crime-ridden. We have people who have honor in working those manufacturing jobs. I mean, we saw it on the tour. We went to that town, Logansport, Indiana, and it was American manufacturer, and they said they're one of a few at this point. So it would be great if Trump can really get that going back here, but I don't know if there is a grand plan, and I know everyone goes for the 5D chess. I think it's more so they're trying to really figure out how do we fix what's been broken by Biden, but maybe reassure everyone that this isn't going to fall into the dustbin.
Well, see, the thing is, and you're even saying it yourself there. So think about being a company for a second, and you're a manufacturer of goods, and you're like, okay, Trump's putting on tariffs. We've got to make some changes here. And then you start to make the changes, but then he takes the tariffs off.
Yeah.
And then you're like, whoa. We had a 10-point plan. We had to finish that 10-point plan. It was going to take us 10 weeks. We're 2 weeks into this. And now all of a sudden, should we stop? So what ends up happening is that you don't have a flow. You can't predict. Business is about predictability. I'll give you an example. DML CBD soft gels. The guy who makes my soft gels just said, hey, DML, any chance you could tell me how many of these things you're going to be moving in the second quarter? We want to start planning. And so that's the concept behind business. Now, for people who have never operated a company before, maybe this sounds a little foreign, but think about sitting around your kitchen table and you look at your own bills and you say, okay, we know we have this coming up and we know that we can pay for that because we're getting X amount of dollars in every single month. Well, what happens if those X amount of dollars change? Now all the plans that you had are upended. And so that's what's happening on a large scale. And companies and people are getting concerned. Look, I'm getting concerned. I'll give you another prime example. I'll bring it back into my own life. I have two sets of money. And I have money for operational and I have money for retirement. Okay. So operational is stuff that I put in my business, is stuff that I take on vacations, is stuff that I, if I've got to fix the roof, I got to do stuff like that. My other stuff is I can't touch it. And so I have two different strategies. The operational money has to be invested very, very safely. CDs. I can predict what's going to come in. I can borrow against it. The other stuff in terms of my retirement, I can't touch it yet. So I'll be a little bit more aggressive with that, but not very aggressive because I can't rework again, right? I don't have a pension. My pension is me and the money I've saved. Well, going back 3 months ago, my guy called me up and said, hey, you want to take a little bit more risk now that Trump's in office and we don't have to worry about Biden? And I said, yeah, absolutely. So what ends up happening is he reallocates my money. So maybe I was 80% very conservative, 20% a little bit high risk. And he shifts that bar now to 60-40. Well, what's happening is now Trump is doing what he's doing, and that 40% is going in the wrong direction, which is wiping out anything I had in the 60%. And I'm looking up and I have less money than I had last month in my retirement. I can't go out and work and get that back. So retirees are looking at this stuff and they're saying, oh my goodness gracious. I mean, I was sitting at the table this morning and I said to your mother, I said, the market's going to go down again 400 points. And your mother for the first time says, I hope Trump knows what he's doing. I mean, first time since November where she's actually shown a little bit of doubt. And that's what's starting to happen. And when you have uncertainty and doubt, people lose faith. And where this will impact us more than anywhere else is 2 years from now in the midterms, people are going to say, we need to stop his agenda. It's getting out of control. The independents are going to do that. And I mark my word, what should be the easiest layup in the world 2 years from now will wind up being a struggle. We've read this book before. This happened in the first go-round. We've read it before. So where I'm taking this is, look at Trump's other accomplishments. We look like we're getting to an end of Ukraine and Russia. Thank goodness, no more money going there. We look like we're cleaning up some of the fraud and some of the crazy spending. Okay, the courts are trying to get in the way, but at least we see a plan there. And we're saying, hey, you know what? We're spending $10 on crap. Trump's saying, I ain't going to give the $10 on crap anymore. The courts are saying, I'm going to stop you. Well, at least they only stopped half of it. We're still saving $5. We're still seeing steps go forward. 4 steps forward, 2 steps back. 3 steps forward, 1 step back. People can get on to a plan like that. Illegal immigration. Okay, we see nobody else is coming through the border. Fantastic. Let's keep it that way. In terms of deportations, Trump just launched a new app. Self-deport. Go on your way. So with that, we see that his plan on various different things are going to impact us in the positive. Look at illegal immigration to begin with. Where people are going to feel that the most, especially the younger generation, is in September when the kids go back to school and you watch how many people self-deport over the next 6 months. Where your kid may have gone into a school that was 50% non-English speaking, it's going to drop down to 15, 20 because new people aren't coming and other people are leaving. You're going to see the positive impact. In order for this to be a Make America Great revival, in the same way he's saying consistent in the Russia, Ukraine, this is going to end. In the same way he's staying consistent with, I'm going to stand behind Israel and never behind Gaza. In the same way that he's being consistent in the borders are going to stay closed and we're going to keep on building them. He has to go to a consistency in terms of the tariffs. If you start breaking the rules, you start breaking the consistency. And that's where it is that these other things that he's doing great are going to get overshadowed by the number one thing that impacts everybody. And that's the economy and their wallet.
It's true. And you're right. I mean, he does have many avenues of consistency. I know this week, hopefully, I mean, because it's not even so much on the tiresome aspect. It really is uh, in regards to Ukraine. Everyone's looking to see the end of this thing, except for the diehard warmongers or people who, in my opinion, are completely anti-American. And everything we have learned about this war at this point is, okay, Ukraine wants NATO. It will not happen. Ukraine can't win this war against Russia. Also, Ukraine is throwing soldiers endlessly into the meat grinder and nothing is changing. All right. We're at that stationary position at this point. Nothing has changed that aspect since then. So what's the move here? Let's end it. And I know Trump is vehemently trying to put out a lot of burning fires, and hopefully this is one that he's kind of getting close to. I know he spoke about it on Air Force One yesterday as well, if we want to play that clip.
Go ahead.
We have to have peace. And I'm doing this. Money is one thing. We're going to lose. They spent $350 billion on this. But the big thing, human life. Thousands of people this week, thousands of young soldiers died this week. Hundreds of people died in cities in Ukraine. And we got to get it stopped. It would have never happened if I was president, and it didn't happen. This was not going to happen. By the way, October 7th wouldn't have happened. Inflation wouldn't have happened. The Afghanistan, the way not that they left, but the way that they left, it looks so bad. Probably the most embarrassing day in the history of our country. That wouldn't have happened. A lot of things wouldn't have happened, but it is what it is. I think we're going to have a good time. I think we're going to have a good result in Saudi Arabia, meaning they're hosting the various talks. And we have a lot of good people going out there. And I think Ukraine's going to do well. And I think Russia's going to do well. I think some very big things could happen this week. I hope so.
Yeah, just to clarify there, he's referencing that there's going to be another peace talks discussion in Saudi Arabia this week involving everyone, meaning Ukraine and Russia's side. So this could be a very big step, finally, another big step, I should say, to trying to get this wrapped up. Because over the weekend, I was just even thinking about it, based on that clip there. If he was president back when, the 2020 election happened and this was avoided, imagine the billions of dollars we would have saved if this war never transpired. I mean, it has really handicapped us financially and I think in a way mentally, because we'll talk about it, coming up in the show here with Vance and some of those pro-Ukrainian protesters. But it really is a mess that he inherited from Biden in the sense of not being involved and trying to really, cap this war from expanding. And hopefully he could really achieve something this week in Saudi Arabia. I think it's Marco Rubio that's going to represent the U.S.'s part in it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm gonna say that when you're in Trump's position, you have a gazillion balls to juggle.
Yeah.
And it's almost impossible to keep them all up afloat. You're going to wind up dropping one or two because you're a human being. Where I think that Americans are going to start to weigh is, okay, Ukraine, Russia, I'm tired of hearing about it. Great. Let's just fucking end it. Okay. Let's just stop giving our money. They want to fight. Let them fight. We don't need to get involved in the peace talks. Enough of this. Let's go back and just fix on what's here in America, okay? Just cut the money off. Just cut it off. That's it. Let them fix over there. We don't need to do it, and that's that. That's where, Americans will support an initiative and a narrative until it doesn't make sense anymore to support it. And I think the focus has to be, first and foremost, solely on what's happening here in America. And that's the way it is that we will stay in power as Republicans. We've talked about this before Trump got into office, and I'm going to stay consistent in this message. I told people that you would not see a benefit in your wallet for almost 12 months, that he had to fix what was broken, and it wasn't going to be an overnight thing. And that's why when you hear these Democrats making these stupid videos about how prices are still high for eggs and prices are still high for this, it's going to take some time. But what people need to see is that the plan is working, right? And if it's not working, unfortunately, people will abandon the plan. And we have a society that, unlike China, is not in it for the long haul. We're in it for the short haul, right? That's why we binge watch things on Netflix. Oh, I don't want to wait till next Sunday. Put the next one on. right? We're addicted to having everything in nanoseconds. So when I look at Ukraine, Russia, I start to get tired of it. Like, all right, great. Zelensky again, rare earth minerals. Mr. President, there are homeless people sleeping outside my door. Can we do something about this? And that's where people will start to lose their patience. That's where my concern is on this Monday.
I might have Ryan just play the B-roll here because the audio from this video, it's J.D. Vance. He was in Ohio this weekend. I think it was in support of his brother running for mayor, but he was out with his 3-year-old daughter. Ryan's playing the video so anyone watching can see it. And he's literally confronted by Ukrainian protesters. And just to summarize it, he tries to reason with them. There's no reasoning with them. And he kind of commences with, this is a foreign country that you people are actively shouting in my face about. Like, where is this passion for the homeless Americans, the veterans that are suffering, maybe our southern border? And it's true because what Biden and the Democrats have done, besides, the transgender madness and you could be who you want to be and porn books and school kids, they have brainwash this narrative that Ukrainian interests need to align with American interests. And it's kind of you always talk about the autopsy that needs to be done on liberals. I think it needs to be a brain scan because I always refer to that chart, how conservatives think insular, the family, the friends, the community, whereas liberals always think about others that would never think about them. And you see, the frustration Vance has. They're like, I'm just trying to walk with my daughter, and you're harassing me. And it's funny, when I watched that video, I was like, if that's you and you're in that position, I know you would not be as polite to those protesters because they're fighting for a cause that's so senseless.
Well, listen,
in terms of our interests.
To your point, you cannot think that Democrats are ever going to act rationally. And that's why I'm going to keep on coming back to this conversation about the midterms. We're never, ever, ever going to get Democrats to vote for Trump and make America great again unless we put a ton of money in their pocket. That is the only way to lure them in. They're not going to come in over anything regarding Ukraine. They're not going to come over because Israel's being attacked. They're not going to come over for anything other than Trump put more money in my pocket. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. I do the Yankee Camp every single year, right? So the Yankee Camp, for people who don't know what that is, it's a big charity, and I love supporting it because it does so much stuff for the people, for poor people and things of that nature, and down and out people in Tampa, Florida. So the New York Yankees have every year this camp where you go and you could play baseball and you're supporting these charities. And so I do it every other year if I can. And we did it this year. And most of the guys that are there are white guys. You get a couple of black guys. And one of the coaches is a black guy. For people who remember, Mickey Rivers. Mickey Rivers was a big New York Yankee back in the late 1970s. And he's a barrel of fun. And they have this thing that's almost like a comedy hour. It's called Kangaroo Court, where all the players get punished for the mistakes they made the day before. And you got to go in front of Mickey Rivers, and he penalizes you. So, let's say, for instance, it's me. It's bases loaded. I'm playing shortstop. Ground ball to me, easy ground ball. All I have to do is get the out. We're out of the inning. But I boot the ball, and then before you know it, the game is tied. The next morning, I will be brought up in Kangaroo Court in front of Mickey Rivers, and he will fine me $25 for being a bonehead. So one of the campers is a black guy, and Mickey Rivers calls him up. And the black guy says, "What did I do wrong? I didn't even play in yesterday's game. I'm injured. I'm out." And he said, "I heard you voted for Kamala Harris." And he said, "I did. Why didn't you?" And Mickey said, "Because I love money, you knucklehead." And he charged them the money. And so the meaning of that story is that even, people who would traditionally vote for Kamala Harris, because the money, they're going to come over to Trump. And so that's the key here. The more money we can put in the pocket of the Democrat, the less J.D. Vance has in front of him bitching and moaning about Ukraine. And funny, you look at the video, most of these people are these freaking liberal women. Liberal white women are the most dangerous people in the world. I think they're more dangerous than ISIS.
I would say the one lady in that B-roll, you could see she had her hair dyed at the very end, like a purple
totally,
color.
totally.
Yeah.
So, we can sit here, I could sit here in front of a liberal and explain to them, and we should get into this, all the great things that Doge is doing and immigration is happening, and they won't care. But if they call up their broker at Merrill Lynch, JP Morgan Chase, E-Trade, or whatever, and they say, yeah, since Trump took office, you're up 25%. Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, I could go on that vacation? You certainly can, and you'll have money left over. Oh, I could get the new car safely? Sure you can. We see this continuing. They will never admit it to their friends. They will never put it on social media. But when it comes time to pull that lever, the almighty dollar is going to convince them. And so what I'm going to hope, because if there's one other little tiny thing that I'm seeing in the Trump administration, it's starting to be a little bit of kissing ass. So, I like the team approach where everybody sort of has a message. So like when Howard Lutnick, Commerce Secretary, gets on television, I like to hear Howard use his own economic experience and expertise to explain why it is that he thinks we should go in a certain direction. I want to hear from him, right? I'm not hearing that right now. I keep on hearing that Trump is great, Trump is great, Trump is great, Trump is great. And I get it. Keep on hitting that horn. But I'd like to have a little bit more meat on the bone. I know Trump is great. That's why I elected him. Can you explain to me what the plan is here for the tariffs? Like, I'll give you, somebody just asked him, I think it was on NBC, Howard Lutnick, how do you like the fact that you're actually sharing the running of the Commerce Department with Elon Musk? Because the narrative right now is that Trump has told all the heads, Elon Musk is your technical support. Elon Musk is going to help you with your stuff. And so I don't believe Howard Lutnick. Anybody who's a CEO wants to run their department. If you make me the secretary of DHS, I don't want to share it with Elon. If I have an issue and it goes beyond my expertise, of course I'm going to say, Elon, come in, take a look at DHS. I looked at it. I got us down by 10% in terms of overspending. See if you could cut another 5-10% that maybe you could find somewhere. Just technology alone, see if something's going on. But I don't want to run my department with him. So when Howard Lutnick gets back and gives a conversation of, listen, he's the most richest guy in the world. He's brilliant. I mean, my goodness, if he wanted to come into my house and help me be more efficient, I'd take it on. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. You'd say, get out of my house. I don't need you. And so I'm okay with we're all for one and one for all. But I want to have some individualism. I want to have some realism. I want to believe what is being told to me versus a script. That is the Democrats' game plan. And I've seen in the last week, 10 days, we're starting to go a little bit in that direction. And the one person who's not doing that is Christine Owens in terms of the DHS. She is doing great. She's up there on NBC, CBS, whatever. They're trying to nail her for all the stuff at the border, and she's sticking to plan. She's sticking to her script and what her and her team is doing. Yes, she will say Trump's leadership is fantastic, and that's good. Give him the horn honk. But at the end of the day, I want to hear what the people on the ground are doing, and this has been, as far as I'm concerned, the brightest spot so far in the entire Trump administration is what's happening at the border.
Yeah, she's been great. She actually just said this weekend they caught some of the leakers that were giving away ICE raid locations. Mm-hmm. In fact, she just said something recently where she wants to find more leakers and she's going to start implementing the polygraph tests. So she's not only just having to deal with cleaning up the border, she's also trying to clean up a department that was ran by the worst DHS head, Alejandro Mayorkas, who, in my opinion, facilitated our invasion at a very great pace. And you're correct. I would like to see a little bit more of that individualism too. And I see it in some ways. I'll give the credit here that the cabinet, I mean, we said, right, they're an A+ team, and they are in different ways. I mean, we'll get into Tulsi Gabbard later, which she predicted to be correct. And Marco Rubio, while I'm not the biggest fan of him in terms of I would never want him to be president, he seems to be doing a lot of good at the State Department. So they have a good team. And look, they already had 2 meetings, right? Biden's cabinet, I think, met once a year, and it was ran by Jill.
Right.
So at least they're meeting. But yeah, like one thing we had reported that this came from a New York Times report, so you always got to take it with a grain of salt, was that at their last cabinet meeting, which was closed doors, there was some animosity between Elon Musk and Marco Rubio because Rubio felt Musk was infringing too much on the department. Musk was claiming that the State Department's too bloated, and it seems like they kind of came to a compromise. And Trump even downplayed that there was any issue. So I think if they stick with the messaging that they're still a good team, but at the same time, like Howard Lutnick does have that little bit of a kiss ass approach, and him lying that he would totally be cool with Elon Musk renovating his house is a little bit like okay. But I think as long as everyone stays in their lane, but they're trying to improve their lane, especially because look, I just keep reminding myself Trump's got 4 years and then he's got to hand that baton off. And if he can hand it to a Vance, or Vance says like, hey, this is the better guy to take the place, I'm all for it. We just got to make sure that his 4 years still remain productive. I mean, if he ends the Ukraine war, if he gets inflation completely, ramped down, if he gets manufacturing and even maybe like, investment in the white picket fence theory brought back to America, then, he accomplished what he accomplished. But I don't expect maybe every issue to be resolved in just a 4-year period.
Oh, of course not. But let's look at the bright side of something that is definitely happening with Elon Musk and Doge. I'll read this. This is coming straight out of 47 report. The Department of Government Efficiency, Doge, announced a further wave of contract terminations late Saturday, noting that they also identified thousands of cases where more than $300 million in loans were granted to children. The announcements came as the Elon Musk-led agency continues to root out waste, fraud, and corruption in the federal government. Doge said it identified that the Small Business Administration granted nearly 5,600 loans for $312 million to borrowers who only listed owner was 11 years old or younger at the time of the loan. The loans were issued in 2020 and 2021 while the world struggled with the COVID-19 pandemic, and it is unclear what they were used for. While it is possible to have business arrangements where this is legal, that is highly unlikely for these 5,593 loans, as they all also used Social Security numbers with the incorrect name. So think about this for a moment. You've got nearly 6,000 children, 11 and under, getting business loans for COVID-19. I remember, no joke, when they were giving out those business loans. I remember calling my accountant and be like, hey man, my business is freaking hurting. And he said to me, can't do it. I said, what do you mean you can't do it? They're not giving out loans to sole proprietors like you because you don't have outside employees. I'm like, wait a second, my business is getting its ass kicked. It doesn't matter, Dennis, you can't do it. And I remember sitting there being like, wow, I can't even get $1,000. People who are freaking loaded are getting hundreds of millions. And here it is, the government was giving out 5,500 loans of $312 million.
So many people scam that system. It's insane.
And nobody's been held accountable. Here it is, my CPA is telling me, don't even go for the $1,000. You could wind up getting yourself audited. I'm like, all right, I won't do it. And I didn't do it. And it's not even like I could sleep at night because God knows you were targeted for something else, and it's so thank God we've got Elon Musk and Doge doing their part to fix out these crimes. This is a crime, and it's a crime that America is just continuing to let it happen.
There's definitely opinions of Elon Musk that we've said it way many times on the show that we won't probably align with or agree with. But I think the big notion here, and Trump has kind of hammered it home. He did it again with that interview with Maria yesterday, because she asked about Elon. He's not getting paid to do this. He is taking his free time to try and fix the bloat and the corruption and putting a spotlight on things that, let's just remind ourselves, Republicans for the longest time, most of them at least, did not put a spotlight on. And anyone who's saying that this is for the benefit or incentives of his companies, I mean, look, he is a businessman by nature, but he's a businessman that's employed thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And look, what's his ambition? That's not to do a world global takeover order. His ambition is to go to Mars. I mean, that's just a scientific nerdy kind of ambition. But his other ambition is that, hey, this is the country that gave me a chance with coming here, immigrating here. What can I do to give it back? How about get rid of the corruption and the overspending and try to get it in a position where it's still the number one country in the world? Not that it still isn't in my view, but it's the number one with a lot of leaky holes right now. So let's plug up those holes and sail ahead.
Agreed. And at the same time, is you got to remember something, that not only are we just trying to make America great again, but we're trying to stem the Democrats from getting back into power. And that's the main reason of why I opened up with the sort of a monologue I did about how important it is for us to stay as an administration very, very consistent. I'll give you an example of one of the rising stars in the Democrat Party is Representative Jasmine Crockett, all right, Democrat out of Texas. She was on MSNBC, and she claimed that illegal entry into the United States is not a crime, but a civil accusation, whatever that means.
Is that from the Jeb Bush book
yeah,
on
an act
illegal
of love,
immigration?
right? Now, speaking of MSNBC, we have a clip here. Ryan, get this clip ready. This clip here is somebody actually claiming that Ukrainians are more American than Americans. Play the clip.
The person who's watching, who just heard you say Donald Trump is not standing up for Ukraine. What do you say to the person who says, well, I don't care about Ukraine. I want Donald Trump to stand up for America. What do you say to them?
I don't know where you got that. I mean, I don't have time for it.
Yes, but we hear it. We hear it.
Here's the thing. Where did you grow up? Did you grow up in a place where you thought the Russians were the good guys? What part of America did you grow up in where they taught you the Russians were the good guys and our allies were the bad guys? That's the flip here that we need to continue to remind people. The Russians are the bad guys. They're raping women. They're killing children. They're bombing cities. The Ukrainians are the noble good guys. In some ways, they're more American than we are over the last couple of years. And we must stand with them in the same way we stood with the allies in World War II and since this country was founded. This is not just about Ukraine. This is about the core and the integrity of American values. And that's what he's also betraying. Not just Ukraine. He's betraying America.
I don't give a rat's ass what that schmuck says, okay? The people of Ukraine have Zelensky. And Zelensky, as far as I'm concerned, is the biggest con artist around the world. That doesn't mean that Putin or Xi Jinping are good people. What it doesn't mean is that the people of Ukraine are, somehow heroes and more patriotic and more American than Americans. This is why MSNBC keeps on changing its shows up, because they can't get themselves an audience. And every time they change the show up, it just falls right back down again. If I were brought in as the CEO of CNN or MSNBC, do you know what I would do? I'd have a board meeting and I'd say, okay, listen, we've been trying the same thing over and over and over again, and it's not working. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to leave woke to ABC, NBC, and CBS because it's free. Nobody has to pay for it. They could have it. They dominate the waves. Why are we giving everything to Fox News? Why are we allowing Fox News, who truly is not conservative, who the Murdochs gave $1 million donation to the Clinton Foundation? Why are we leaving that in? Let's compete against them. Let's get some new up-and-comings, because Hannity is old and all these other people. I mean, when I say old, I don't mean old in age. I mean, the message is getting old. It's the same people over and over and over again. In fact, who the hell was I just with over the weekend? They said to me, oh, I can't believe I can't remember who I was talking to. One of my dear friends said, I don't watch. Oh, I know it. My buddy Bill, we actually interviewed him for Life After 50. I went to dinner with Bill. He's 80 years old. He said, I can't watch Fox News anymore. And I said, why is that? He says, because it's the same thing at 8 o'clock as it was at 6, at the same thing it was at 4, at the same thing it was at 11. It's the same stories, just recycled all over again. I said, because that's all they're capable of. I would take MSNBC and I would take CNN if I had one of those, and I would make it into the most conservative network of all time, and you'd kick ass over Fox News. Just the way it is. And I'll tell you what I would do. I would play clips all day long of showing how asinine the Democrats are. I'll give you an example. We have a protest video here, right? right, Dennis? People protesting Elon Musk?
Yes, there's actually been a few over the weekend. This one's in New York City, but they're basically targeting his Tesla showrooms.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have one where they're beating up the showroom, and then you got your classic liberal girl saying how Elon Musk is trying to ruin the world.
Play it, Ryan.
What the? Wait, but what is this? Whoa, what the hell? Wait, what is this? What the hell? What do we get a mouth on? Wait, what are you doing to this guy?
My name's Frankie, and I'm getting arrested today protesting Elon Musk. Bought his way into office. He bought his way into heading a government agency. He bought his power at the expense of the American people, at the expense of our environment, at the expense of our world, and all of the people in it.
Another white liberal female. It is so consistently consistent.
I love how their messaging is like, we need to save the world as they destroy property. It's just like,
yeah. I mean, but look at MSNBC, right? I mean, their number one thing is Rachel Maddow got on there and told you that the vaccine was going to wind up saving everybody's life. She's a train wreck, and that's the best thing they could come up with. I have a better idea. Give me a show on MSNBC at 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. Pay me $10 million a year. I guarantee you'll get $100 million back in advertising. Because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start playing Rachel Maddow clips and make my audience laugh their ass off and stuff like this. I mean, we need more Fox Newses because Fox News, and that's the other thing too. We got to have a conversation about this. We got to wrap this up. We're over an hour right now. Fox News, people are going to be shocked at what happens to Fox News in the next year or two. Rupert Murdoch is in his 90s. And when you look at him, he looks a little frail. And he wanted to, he set up a whole thing for his estate planning. And when he set it up not thinking it out enough because many of his kids are highly liberal. And he only has one son who is semi-conservative. And now that he's starting to see how liberal his kids are, he's tried to go in and change the trust. But there was a ruling in Nevada that's not allowing him to do it. So now his kids who are protesting this very likely will take over Fox News when Rupert Murdoch dies. And Rupert Murdoch, although by no means a sort of conservative that I would want to invite to dinner, I think he's probably center, maybe a little center left. His kids, other than the one, Lachlan, are completely far left. But the thing that's been brilliant about Rupert Murdoch is that he's always been able to park his ideology to a certain degree and monetize the conservative movement. His kids are like the ones you see in these freaking crazy Tesla videos. They're not going to care about the money because when daddy kicks the bucket, they're going to be making gazillions of dollars. They're going to have all the money they ever need. And now they're going to look to control the message. And so what's going to wind up happening is that you're going to have MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News. And all three of those are going to be the consistent left message, just like ABC, NBC, and CBS are on broadcast television. You mark my word, Fox News 2 years from now is completely a lefty network.
That's why you got to watch us.
That's it. It kind of tells you.
Yes.
Kind of tells you what it is. All right, that's it for us. We appreciate you being with us here today. We thank you, Ryan, for the great job on the videos and the clips. Denny, good choices in picking them out today. Listen, make sure you hit the share button on Facebook right now. I forgot to tell you that early on. When you hit the share button, you piss off the liberals, and that's what it's all about. So thank you so much for being with us here today. Don't forget, dmlcbd.com/mug, M-U-G. You can help the show. We don't play ads or anything else like that during the show. We give it to you always for free and for an hour plus every single day. The same thing with the newsletter. Doesn't cost a dime. The way you can help us is you wind up going dmlcbd.com/mug. The mug, you can put LIFE as a coupon code. You'll save yourself 10% in free shipping. It's not a lot of money, but yet it helps us pay the bills and stick around. And then on top of that, 47 Report. Dennis is holding it up right now. You go to 47report.com. And if you go sharing the 47report.com and your friends join on as subscribers, all it takes is you just get 2, and we wound up mailing out to you these free coasters and a personalized letter.
And just a note on that, we fixed something in our system where once you get those referrals, you'll get an automatic email asking for your address so we can send these. So just make sure that as soon as you achieve it, you'll get an email that says you achieved your referrals, and then you'll get an email a minute later that says, we need your address. Fill that out so we can, we sent a lot last Friday, but I know more came in over the weekend, so just make sure you do that.
Fantastic. 47report.com, 47report.com. All right, so on behalf of Ryan, Denny, and all of Team DML and the Lynch family, we hope that you have the greatest of days. If God willing, we will be back here with you again tomorrow. Until that time, assuming it comes for us all, God knows we could wind up getting some EMP right now from North Korea. That would really be screwed. Think the stock market's doing bad today? Wait until tomorrow.
It just won't even turn on.
Oh, we're only kidding. All right, until tomorrow. May God bless you, your family, the president, the vice president, and the United States.
Today's Team DML blessing goes out to Anthony La Peruta.
All right, Anthony, run with it.
Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML.